Hello everyone and welcome back to the video series Networking into Your Dream Job. I'm Richard Kirby, Executive Career Coach in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm here to help you unlock the power of networking. If you missed the first video, which is subtitled Introduction, you might want to go and look at it now or catch it after this video. In this video series, we're going to help you unlock the power of networking, and what's important for you to understand is that networking in today's work environment and today's job search environment is really more important than resumes. You can go online, submit lots of resumes, mail them out to hundreds of people, email them of course, and you're not likely to get much response, if any. And if you do get a response, you're probably going to get a response for low-paying, crummy jobs. So let's get that out of the way. The other thing is networking is more important than interview skills. You'll see oodles of information on the internet about how to interview for a job. But the problem is most people in this environment are having trouble generating any interviews or enough interviews. So this is going to help you generate interviews if you're actively job searching. It's also going to generate calls to you that result in interviews for potential new opportunities if you're currently working and even passively looking. All future videos in this series are going to be organized into two parts. First, 2, 3, or 4 general concepts, and then some specific actionable tips and items that you can work on to improve your results. And there'll be a handout that you can customize to your particular situation in virtually every video. So we're starting with this, the first video in the Networking Fundamentals series, and it's called A Winning Networking Attitude, because I believe attitude is the fundamental foundation you build upon in your career and in your networking. Since attitude is our starting point, I want to share with you 3 concepts which I have written down here. First, your attitude is always showing. This is kind of like your outbound communications, you might think. Your attitude is always showing, and that people will be able to observe not only from your written words, but when you go to a meeting, when you call your boss, when you go out to a party or a lunch or breakfast or coffee, people will observe your body language, they'll observe your facial expression, they'll observe your choice of words and how you present those words. And all of those things are a reflection of your internal attitude. So your attitude is always showing because you're putting out outbound information and communication, and coded in there is your attitude. So the better your attitude is, the more positive the coding, the more positive result you're going to get in your networking and in your career. The second key concept is inbound, you're influenced by others. You're absorbing either positives or negatives in most cases. No matter what media you're listening to, the type of music you're listening to, the type of radio or television broadcasts, and particularly the people you hang out with, the people you work with in the workplace for 5, 6, 8, 10 hours a day, and what you hear at home, family, friends, spouse, whatever it might be. So remember that you're absorbing attitudes, and those can affect your attitude. And the third key concept is feedback will speed up your results. So it's important that you not be a self-contained entity. It's important that you get external feedback, helpful, supportive feedback. And let's talk a little bit in a second about how you can get that. So in the next section, what we're going to go to is the tips and specific actionable items that are going to help you move forward with this concept of getting a winning networking attitude. The first strategy is take a look in the mirror. Sounds pretty simple, but here's what I'd ask you to do. At a kind of a neutral time of the day, not where you're super hyped up or where you're down or frustrated because of something that's going on at work maybe, take a look in the mirror and ask yourself, does this person look super motivated? Do they look super energetic? Do they look self-confident and feeling like they can take on the world and do anything? I think most of us fall a little short of that. I know I certainly do. And so really all I'm talking about in this first strategy is just take a thoughtful assessment of where you think you stand. You might even put a number on it on a scale of 1 to 10. With 1 is, hey, I'm in the depths, in the pits here. 5 is, I think I got about an average attitude for most of the people I run into from day to day. And 10 is, I am super fantastic and I do not need any of this junk that Richard Kirby's trying to tell me. I've got all I need in attitude right now. I can move on to the next video. That's number one. Second idea, monitor your thoughts and speech. Your thoughts are your internal self-talk, you might say, and your speech is what you're putting out to the world in terms of verbal communications, and you might even say your written communications. So I'd ask you to take a few minutes during the day. This can get pretty tough, and it's really a lot of work if you do it for too long, but take 10 or 15 minutes and just make notes on a piece of paper. Would you say that your thought was positive or negative? Would you say that your communication was positive or negative? I want to urge you to not kind of weasel out of it and rate things as neutral. Pick them which side of that curve they're on, positive or negative, and rate them. And this is going to give you feedback on how much of your thinking and how much of your communications are positive versus negative, and show you areas for obvious immediate improvement. The third strategy is exercise more. So now I'm kind of getting out and saying, okay, what can you physically do about this instead of just thinking about everything? And the idea here, as you know, is exercise releases endorphins and tends to put people in a better frame of mind. And when you're in a better frame of mind, you're more open to improving your attitude, and to some extent your baseline attitude will improve automatically. Obviously, you want to check with your physician and only do exercise that is good for you according to your health condition. But establish a regular exercise pattern of some type, whether it's walking around the block or joining a gym. The third strategy is eliminate negative inputs. So we talked in the second one about monitor your thoughts and speech, what you're putting out externally. Now let's look at what's coming on to you internally. So what kind of inbound information are you getting? You can't choose who you communicate with all the time at work necessarily, but think about where you have the option to choose different people that you hang out with, different friends, and different coworkers that you go to lunch or coffee with. If you're sitting around commiserating about how terrible the world is, or what's wrong with the political system or something like that, it can be an exercise that kind of distracts you from your job, but more importantly, what we want you to focus on is getting positive inputs. So I'm talking about listening to positive audio programs like this one, listening to positive reporting if you can find some on the radio or television, and hanging out with positive, constructive, supportive people. Eliminate the negatives, increase the positive. And don't mess with Mr. In Between is the old song you may have heard. Fifth, ask friends and coworkers. And here I'm saying go ahead and reach out and get feedback. Now, you may not want to talk to coworkers you're currently working with. That may be awkward. But maybe past coworkers that you've worked with, past bosses you've had, past subordinates or past peers. And also friends who are your true close friends who would be willing to level with you. You're looking for people that you think would give you an honest opinion. And here's the question you want to ask them. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being I have a terrible attitude, 5 being I kind of have about an average attitude like most people that you work with and run into during the day, and 10 being I've got the best attitude of anybody you've ever met, where would you place me? That's all you want to ask them, and ask for their candid comment and then thank them. Don't get into any discussion of why they rank you that way or anything else. Just ask them for a rating. That's going to give you an idea of how much potential room you have for improvement, and you can compare that to what your view in the mirror told you personally. The last concept or strategy is establish accountability. So feedback is extremely important. In step 5 I suggested ask friends or coworkers or things like that, former coworkers. But this last step is about getting someone you truly trust as a mentor, a coach, an advisor. If you can pay someone like me and you can get great expert professional advice. If you can't afford that or don't want to spend that money, then go find the best person you can think of and say, would you be willing to be my mentor? I promise not to rely on you too heavily or use too much of your time, but I'd like to check in with you once a week, and I'd like to tell you what I'm doing in improving my attitude and get your input or comments candidly about what you think. So feedback is extremely important. So there's 6 tips that we've given you right here that you can go out and start acting on. You may not choose to act on all of them right now, but jump on as many as you can, and you'll immediately start improving and developing a more winning networking attitude. And I'll see you in the next video.